My name is Sierra Vance, and on the night my family became billionaires, my father looked me in the eye and erased 10 years of my life with one sentence. He didn't know that while he stood on that stage, bragging about legacy and success, he was seconds away from losing everything he thought he owned, including the company, the code, and me. So before I show you what happened when the screens behind him lit up and exposed the truth, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been the one doing all the work while someone else took all the credit? Because tonight, revenge wasn't an accident, it was architecture. I'm Sierra Vance, and I'm 32 years old. The night of the Titan Tech acquisition gala was supposed to be the night my family celebrated becoming billionaires. Instead, it became the night I finally took back the decade they stole from me. The ballroom was drowning in expensive champagne, fake confidence, and even faker smiles. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even tremble. I just stood there, watching my father raise his glass as if he hadn't spent 10 years treating me like a disposable piece of machinery. He thought he owned the company. He thought he owned my code. He thought he owned me. He had no idea that the foundation he built his empire on had expired 3 days ago. But before we get to the moment those screens turned on, let me take you back to the night he destroyed me, long before I learned how to destroy him back. We were sitting at the dinner table, drowned in mahogany and silence. Richard, my father, had just announced he was selling our company for $2.5 billion. Money he didn't earn, credit he didn't deserve. Then he turned to me. You're just the mechanic, Sierra. We don't need a mechanic where we're going. Hand over your key card. You're fired. He said it like he was dismissing a maid, not a daughter. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my key fob, and dropped it into my water glass. Goodbye, Dad. I walked out. He thought he had won. He had no idea that in my closet, inside a dusty cardboard box, lived the document that would one day take everything from him. The rain hammered the windshield of my old 10-year-old sedan as I drove away from the estate. It smelled of stale coffee and burned-out dreams. And yet, for the first time in years, the air felt breathable. While I drove, I remembered why I ever sacrificed my life for a man who never once said, "Thank you." It started 10 years earlier. I walked into my father's office and found him crying, truly crying, shoulders shaking, face red. The bank was threatening foreclosure. The entire fleet grounded. The legacy he worshipped was collapsing. He looked at me with broken eyes and whispered, "Sierra, I'm going to lose everything." And because I was young, loyal, naive, I quit my PhD, moved into the server room, and spent 2 years without a salary, sleeping on a yoga mat under humming servers, rebuilding the entire logistics kernel from scratch. I was the engine. Brent, my brother, was the hood ornament. But here's the moment Richard sealed his own fate. 6 months into rebuilding the system, money was tight. Richard called me into his office and slid a document across the table. "Payroll taxes are killing us. I need to move you off W-2. You'll be a contractor. It's just a formality." He thought he was exploiting me. Saving money. Cutting corners. He never read the clause. He never read the date. And he never read the part where, if the company didn't buy the rights to my work within 10 years, those rights reverted fully to me. He signed that paper with arrogance. I signed it with fear. Neither of us understood. I had just become the owner of everything he claimed was his. 10 years later, April 15th, 2024, the deadline passed. By 3 days. He didn't even notice. And that's when I realized something painful. I wasn't staying out of loyalty. I wasn't staying because I loved them. I stayed because I was conditioned to believe my worth came from fixing their disasters. That if I saved them one more time, they'd finally see me. I was wrong. And now the chain was broken. Back in my small apartment, I climbed into the hallway closet and pulled down the old cardboard box. There it was. The original contractor agreement. The weapon. I opened my laptop, pulled up the mirrored repository I had maintained in secret since 2015. Git logs lit up like a neon confession. Every algorithm, every patch, every single line of life-saving code. Authored by Sierra Admin. Brent. 0 commits. 0 contributions. Just a 40 GB download for a video game update. I printed everything, bound it in a black folder, put on the suit I had saved for the day I became CEO, a day they never let happen. And I walked out the door, because the night wasn't for celebration. It was for demolition. The Seattle Convention Center glowed like a radioactive jewel against the night sky. Inside, the Titan Tech acquisition gala was already in motion, all glitter, greed, and the illusion of power. I stood outside the glass doors for a moment, my charcoal gray suit sharp enough to slice through the lies floating in the air. I wasn't here to blend in. I wasn't here to be polite. I was here to end an empire. Through the doors, I spotted them immediately. Richard, scotch in hand, pretending the world loved him. Cynthia, glowing in her silver gown, smiling like she earned any of this. And Brent, already drunk, shouting exaggerated stories to a terrified TechCrunch reporter. They looked invincible. They looked comfortable. They thought I was home crying. They were wrong. I walked straight toward the VIP entrance. The velvet rope, guarded by security, stood between me and the stage where Richard would soon sign the $2.5 billion deal. The lead guard stepped forward. Restricted access, ma'am. But then he recognized me. Marcus. The same guard had helped reset his payroll credentials last month when the system crashed. Miss Vance, I didn't see your name on the list tonight. I leaned in slightly. I'm here to fix a technical issue with the presentation. You know how Richard gets when the slides glitch? He hesitated, then unhooked the rope. Go ahead, Miss Vance. Good to see you. Good to see you too, Marcus. I walked inside. The trap was set. I moved silently along the edges of the ballroom until I reached the AV platform, the control center for the giant screens behind the stage. The technician barely looked up. Restricted area, I'm sorry. I placed a crisp $100 bill on the console. Then the black USB drive. My father wants a last-minute change to the visuals. Just cue this at the moment he signs. He frowned, then shrugged. Inserted the USB. The file loaded. A perfect name for what it contained. I nodded and stepped away. Everything was in motion now. Richard began his speech. The room hung on his words like he was a god. Legacy, hard work, innovation. The irony was so thick it could smother. Then the contract was placed before him. The $2.5 billion deal. The pen in his hand, glinting under the lights. I stepped forward, boots clicking on the marble floor. The sound echoed through the hall. Every head turned. Whispers rose. Richard's face went pale. He tried to hide it, but fear doesn't hide well. I walked down the aisle slowly, deliberately, like a storm he hoped would pass, but knew was coming straight for him. When I was 10 feet from the stage, he snapped. Security, remove her. No one moved. Because Marcus was watching. And so was everyone else. I stopped, met his eyes, tilted my head just slightly. He panicked. He wanted to prove he was in control. So he signed. A single stroke of that pen ended him. Because mergers come with warranties, sworn statements that the seller owns all intellectual property. And he didn't. And now the lie was on paper. I raised my hand toward the AV booth. The technician hit play. The room went black for half a second. Then the screens exploded to life. Center screen. The 2014 contractor agreement. Highlighted. Glowing red. Clause 17b. Automatic reversion of all intellectual property rights after 10 years. Left screen. The Git logs. 10 years of commits. Line after line. Author, Sierra Vance. 99.8% authorship. Right screen. A cease and desist notice addressed to Titan Tech. Unauthorized sale of protected intellectual property. Gasps rippled through the room. Phones went up. People filmed. Investors turned. Journalists froze. Titan Tech's CEO, Elias Thorne, turned on Richard. "What is this?" My father's voice cracked. It's taken out of context. She's unstable, she's bitter, she... But the screens didn't lie. His empire did. Elias spoke into the mic, loud enough for the room to hear. "This deal is terminated. You sold us stolen property." Chaos detonated. Lawyers swarmed the stage. Security grabbed Richard, but not me. He shouted, pointed, stumbled, begged. Cynthia collapsed into a chair, stunned. Brent dropped his wine. The TechCrunch reporter filmed everything. Their legacy imploded in real time. I felt no joy. Only equilibrium. Only justice finally catching up. I turned and walked out of the ballroom. The storm I had carried for 10 years finally passed behind me. And the night air felt clean. For the first time in my life. I was free. 3 months passed. 3 months of silence, headlines, chaos, not for me but for them. The morning after the gala, Titan Tech filed a lawsuit so brutal it knocked the soul out of Vance Logistics before the first hearing even began. They weren't just suing the company. They sued Richard, Brent, Cynthia. Personally. Because when you commit IP fraud, there is no corporate shield. Not for him. Not for his perfect wife. Not for his golden son. I watched it unfold like a storm I no longer belonged to. The estate seized. The offshore accounts frozen. The trust fund gone. The company imploded overnight. Every lie they built their lives on evaporated in public view. Their friends vanished. Their lawyers turned. Their investors fled. They spent a decade treating me like a servant. But in the end, I was the one who held the deed to the kingdom they thought they owned. When Vance Logistics finally went bankrupt, all assets were put up for auction. I attended. Not in a disguise. Not hiding. I sat in the front row. When the bidding began on the core logistics kernel, my code, stripped from the servers like an organ, I raised my paddle first. No one challenged me. Why would they? Every buyer in that room knew the truth. Without me, the system was worthless. I won the auction. Cheap. Laughably cheap. I didn't just buy back the company they stole from me. I bought it legally. Publicly. Undeniably. I reassembled the pieces. Not to restore my father's empire, but to build something he never could. A company rooted in justice. Competence. Humanity. I called it Sierra Logic. I gave equity to the workers who had been ignored for years. I rebuilt the core from the ground up. Cleaner. Faster. Uncompromised. For the first time in my life, the people working beside me weren't parasites. They were architects too. The company grew. Steadily. Quietly. Righteously. Right now, I'm sitting in my office overlooking the Puget Sound. Rain is fatting. The clouds are breaking. I think back to the girl I used to be. The one who slept on a yoga mat under humming servers. The one who spent Christmas nights fighting firewall breaches alone. The one who believed that love could be earned through sacrifice. She died the night Richard fired her. The woman who stands here now didn't inherit her life. She built it. Piece by piece. Line by line. Commit by commit. I wasn't the mechanic. I wasn't the help. I was the architect. And the blueprint was always mine. So if you've ever been underestimated, ever been used, ever been told your work didn't matter, remember this. They only win if you stay quiet. Fade out. Black screen. Your logo.